Today, we'll be covering some time-saving tips to help you maximize your time during your Walt Disney World vacation. Hello and welcome to the Let's Go to Disney podcast. I'm Oliver.
And I'm Lucy.
Today is Sunday, September 1st, and you're listening to episode 51, Practical Time-Saving Tips for Walt Disney World. Before we get into today's main topic, here's what's going on in the parks right now. Epcot's International Food and Wine Festival officially kicked off on Thursday, August 29th. As always, initial reactions from the menu items at the global marketplaces are overwhelmingly positive. We can't wait to head there in just over 2 weeks. The festival runs through November 23rd, so if you've got a trip planned sometimes between now and the next 3 months, make sure to indulge in some of the party's offerings. Disney announced that work on the new attractions coming to Avengers Campus at Disney's California Adventure over at Disneyland Resort will begin in early 2025. The red car trolley will be offline during the construction. No specific dates were given for the project, but we'll share those news when they are released. Avengers Campus needed fresh offerings, so this will be a welcome change. Blizzard Beach and Typhoon Lagoon are doing their swap in early November. Blizzard Beach will be open on November 4th, and Typhoon Lagoon will close on November 3rd. Reminder that only one water park has been open at a time, so when one reopens, the other closes. This has been the case since the reopenings post-pandemic. Reminder that starting in 2025, you'll have access to whichever water park is open during your stay on your check-in day for free. Meaning when you check in, you could head to the water park right away, depending on how early you arrive. Note that while this may not appeal to many guests, a good way to really take advantage of this is split stays. So say you were going to Disney for 6 nights, and you were doing 3 nights at Art of Animation and 3 nights at Animal Kingdom Lodge. You get water park access on each check-in day, so you can make a full day at the water park on your check-in day on your second stay. Something to keep in mind there, depending on how you structure your trip, and if you have interest in one of the water parks.
Absolutely. That's a really good tip and a kind of a fun way to get to stay at 2 resorts.
Yeah, it's a good workaround to actually get like a full day at the water park.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Universal just this morning shared a closer look at the Wizarding World of Harry Potter Ministry of Magic and what we can expect to find there. So as they've said previously, you're going to be able to physically walk through the British Ministry of Magic. It's going to include the Fountain of Magical Brethren, as it should be, flying memos zooming through the atrium, and the enchanted weathered ceiling, just like in the movies. As we know, the ride in here will be Harry Potter and the Battle at the Ministry, which depicts the trial of Dolores Umbridge. In the queue, this is the new details we're getting here just this morning. You'll see a locker room which suggests that Harry, Ron, and Neville are training to become Aurors. You'll encounter moving portraits of past ministers for magic in the Hall of Ministers. There's going to be a map room with an enchanted moving map of the ministry. And you're going to pass through the Aurors headquarters where you're going to get a glimpse of the cases they're working on. There's going to be plenty of Easter eggs and subtle details, including a tribute to fallen Aurors. You'll also get a walkthrough of Umbridge's lavish ministry office with pink and gold accents and, of course, plenty of cat plates. It's also going to feature Higgledy, which is Umbridge's house elf, who is going to be packing up her office with her upcoming trial.
Mm-hmm.
After the elaborate queue, you're going to enter the lift area where you're going to board the lift ride vehicle itself. These will bring you down into the courtrooms to witness the trial. The ride starts off in the lift shafts and then goes out. And of course, you zoom through the different departments of the ministry and you're facing off with different creatures and Death Eaters. You're going to get to see never before seen areas like the Ministry Archives and the Department of Magical Creatures. You're also going to see new characters not yet featured in any attraction like Yaxley, McNair, the Carrows, and Kingsley Shacklebolt. And Dame Imelda Staunton has reprised her role as Umbridge for the attraction, which is awesome.
That's amazing. I love that they were able to get her to come back because nobody else could play Umbridge but
Agreed,
her.
Agreed, right? You're like, we associate it with her. She did it perfect.
She did.
So we can't wait to see this in person. Hearing these details is so exciting. And literally, it's a dream for us to walk through the British Ministry. And this attraction sounds amazing. Like, my God, just exciting. We can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be perfection. I know it. So with that said, let's get into today's main topic. Today, we'll get into some strategies that's going to help you save time when you're on your way to your Walt Disney World vacation. There's a lot of time, planning, and money that goes into preparing for your trip, and time is money in Walt Disney World. It's not a budget vacation by any means. It can be actually quite expensive, usually ranging from expensive to very expensive. And for most families, it's a definite luxury that comes around every few years or maybe even just once in a lifetime. So you want to be able to maximize your time on your vacation so that you can really get the most out of it and feel as though the effort and the cost that went into it was worth it in the end. And, that's really subjective. Like, what is worth it to each individual? But when you are able to be efficient, get lots done, and feel as though you're getting your money's worth, that can make a world of difference in how you perceive how your vacation went during and after you've come home.
And saving time in little or significant ways at different points during your trip can help to get more done.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like it can also help you feel more relaxed and like you're actually able to savor your time if you're not constantly feeling like you're pressed for time. We talk about this a lot, but it comes down to being prepared, right? So the more you know going in, the less time you're going to spend, you know, when you're on vacation trying to figure out things like the My Disney Experience app, the transportation options from different locations on property, dining options, and the list goes on, right? So with that, let's get into some tips that's going to help you save time on your vacation. We're going to split this into kind of like before your trip, arriving for your trip, and then when you're actually on it.
Perfect.
And each stage, we're going to talk about like some time-saving tips that are going to help you put time back on your side, essentially.
Absolutely, which is key.
Yeah. So we're going to start with some things you can do on the front end of your vacation before you go that can help save you time while you're actually there. So first things first, we mentioned this before, but being familiar with the My Disney Experience app is a lifesaver, okay? So you should definitely have a good working knowledge of what features are available on the app before you leave for your trip. Even if you've been to Disney like semi-recently, the app is constantly getting updates and the functionality has changed a lot in the last 2-3 years alone, right? So it's good to go in there every so often leading up to your trip and familiarizing yourself with the app so that you don't have any surprises when it's crunch time and you're trying to book those lightning lanes, 7 days out, or when you're on property trying to use its features. That's not the time to start trying to figure that out. Honestly, the app is really well designed for the most part and it has a ton of helpful features and information. We really do love and use it constantly when we're on property. So we definitely advocate for being comfortable with it leading up to your trip.
Absolutely. Like I will say that when we're not on our trips, when we're just at home, I will definitely like 2-3 times a week dive into the app and just see what's new.
Yep, 100%.
I'll check wait times.
Yep.
I'll look at like, oh, what restaurant could I go to today if I was there?
No, exactly. And like some things like setting up your day or like going through the menus of Lightning Lane just until the point that you select your party, you can kind of just rep through those and see how it works essentially. So that you're not figuring that out when you're trying to book, right? And that can be stressful.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah. So next up is dining. So dining is one of the most significant items on your vacation when it comes to cost. There's no doubt that eating on vacation can be expensive, and it certainly is at Disney. There are ways to save money, like bringing in snacks and lunches into the park and cooking meals if you have access to a kitchenette or kitchen, depending on where you're staying. But if you plan on eating some meals on Disney property, you definitely want to be aware of the dining landscape ahead of your trip. If you're going to be paying hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in dining over the course of a several-day vacation, you want to get the most bang for your buck. Not only that, but having at least a loose plan of the places you'd like to eat can definitely save you time in major ways. I'm sure most of us have experienced this at some point, trying to figure out where to eat and find something that will please everyone. That's tough. Well, if you already know where you would like to eat in terms of quick service locations or snack locations, this can definitely save you major time. So instead of getting into some arguments with everyone while it's hot, everybody's hungry, and dipping into the first location you see only to overpay for food that you're not going to enjoy, that's a recipe for disappointment, 100%. Disaster, all that stuff. So definitely having a dining strategy can save you time in the sense that it's snack time. We know everybody wanted to try cinnamon roll from Gaston's Tavern. So guess what? We're going to head there and we're going to try it and everybody's happy then. Yep. That can be a much more pleasant and a much quicker experience than the alternative.
Yeah, 100%. And like now, after having been many times, we have our favorites and we know we have our go-tos. But aside from that, when there are new snacks, we still do this, right? We'll have a plan, like a Word document that I send myself on my phone that's in my email. So, if we're feeling peckish, we're like, oh, what new snack did we want to try? Oh, we wanted to try this one from, Woody's Lunchbox or whatever it is. And then we head there and we try the snack. We don't have to kind of hum and haw about where we want to go.
And my thing too, like that's a really good point about sending it to your phone because you're going to forget half the snacks you already have seen 3 months ago, right?
No, so
that's actually a really good tip to just send it to yourself and then look it up and be like, oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And like I have some of you more than likely follow many Disney creators on social media and they'll post like, I tried this snack and it was delicious. Like we do the same thing. I'll save that. I'll throw it in my notes on my phone and then I'll put all of that in kind of to a master document that I send to myself. And then, we kind of know what we want to try when we're there. So on that same note, make advanced dining reservations. So you can go into your vacation with no reservations whatsoever and bring food in, eat only at quick service or snack locations. That's certainly an option, but having a sit down for an hour or so in some AC to eat and replenish, that can work wonders on your family during a park day. This is especially true when you start to stack several park days over the course of a week. When it's hot and humid and sunny in the parks, you can do walk-up waitlist at most restaurants during less busy times, and you can find pretty good success with this strategy. But again, you'll likely be waiting around more.
Yes.
And now you're also making these decisions live in the parks, right?
So you're hungry and tired and
exactly.
hot.
So a good way to save time and set and forget for at least one meal of the day is to book these ahead of time.
Absolutely.
So with reservations, you know that, for example, at 6:00, we're eating at Sci-Fi Dine-In. We know that. So you can work your way around that, right?
Yeah.
You can work your itinerary around that. And if anyone starts to get hangry before reservation time, well, you know we're eating at 6. You know, whatever it's 3:30, we are feeling peckish. You can plan your snacks to have a proper spacing, you know, when you're having your next meal versus maybe facing a wait list of, 20, 30 minutes or more. And then everybody's starving and nobody had a snack, right? It's just, it can start to get irritating pretty quick.
Very
that.
quick.
We say that from experience. So it's nice to have a more concrete plan and to save the spontaneity of the day, like riding attractions, catching shows, and immersing yourself in the magic.
Absolutely. Another time saver we suggest when it comes to the planning stages and how you can prepare to be more efficient in the parks is to study the park maps and learn the layout. Again, from the My Disney Experience app, you have access to a map and you can in detail see the layout of each park, and you can filter by pretty much anything you want to see, such as wait times, attractions, meet and greets, entertainment, PhotoPass locations, dining, restaurants, guest services, transportation, water refill stations. You name it, there's a filter for it.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's definitely a good strategy to familiarize yourself with each park layout so that you get a better idea of where everything is. Now, we're not suggesting that you learn everything, every nook and cranny of everything that is in every park, but a general sense of where the general areas are, like within the different lands and where the attractions are located in those lands, can really help situate you when you're in the parks. This can be helpful so that you're not wandering around aimlessly or having to double back because you realized you've been walking in the complete opposite direction of where you actually wanted to go. Now, I know there's an element of a discovery in just walking to where your feet will take you, and that's certainly an option. But if you are a planner like we are, you're definitely going to want to get to those parks early for rope drop. You'll want to maximize your time early in the day and then relax a little in the latter half of your park day. Then having a general idea of where everything is will definitely save you time, and it's going to give you an edge over the less savvy travelers.
Yeah, agreed 100%. It's good to just know, right?
Yep.
And it comes down to being prepared,
Mm-hmm.
like so that you're not wondering, right? So like we've just rode, and I don't know why we're all over Hollywood Studios today, but like we just rode Tower of Terror.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now we want to get to Toy Story Land. Okay, well, we know where that is because we kind of have a general idea of where these lands are. Again, you don't need to know like everything, every nook and cranny, but if you have a general idea of like where things are situated, it's just going to make your day flow a little bit better.
Absolutely. That's kind of like what you can do on the maps. You can enter, I want to go from Tower of Terror to Slinky Dog, and it's going to make the little walkie footsteps that show you the best path.
Yes, of course, you can do that as well. Yeah, you can literally map it in the My Disney Experience app.
But if you're sitting there, you get to learn that.
Yeah. And on that same vein, we strongly advocate for making a park itinerary day by day. Now, your gut reaction might be to say we'll play it by ear and see, what we're feeling each day. And Disney has made this possible by removing park pass reservations earlier this year. But really, with dining reservations being made at 60 days out and having to book your lightning lanes at 7 days out, if you don't know what park you're going to be in on which day at least 2 months before, it's next to impossible to make these plans, right?
Yeah.
So really, you're still very much planning your itinerary day by day, and you'll likely know exactly where you're going to be on which day, which is good, right? And honestly, especially for first-time guests, for people who don't go very often, this is really the best strategy. If you have a general idea of where you're going to head to first thing during your park day kind of thing, which attractions and entertainment are most important to you and your must-dos, it's going to make your park day much more pleasant. I can't tell you how many times I've had conversations with friends and family who have gone to Disney without doing, research ahead of time, and were majorly disappointed when they weren't able to do nearly as much as they wanted to when they set out. Having a good park strategy and knowing at least loosely what your day is going to look like is going to save you major time, allowing you to experience more, right? And it's much less likely to leave you feeling disappointed.
Completely agree. An itinerary with subject to change, super important in my opinion. Yeah,
and that's a good point, right? Having the
flexibility.
Yeah, the flexibility to know that things might not go exactly as planned. But again, just a general idea of like, this is what we want to get done during the day. Mm-hmm. This is kind of the order we would like to do it in is a good starting point.
Absolutely. Another great time saver is staying on site. So there's a lot that goes into choosing whether you're going to stay on or off property. And even if you choose to stay on property, you're going to have a ton of options when it comes to choosing where you'll stay. Different resorts on property will be much closer to certain parks than others, which can certainly be nice during your vacation. But generally speaking, staying on property and using Disney transportation to get around can really save you time. You won't have to worry about driving to the parks, paying for parking, remembering where you parked because, folks, those parking lots are huge, making the long walk back to your car after a very long park day just to have to drive back to wherever you're staying. So if you are like us, you don't get to have that same enjoyment as staying on property because you know these can be significant hurdles to get back to your resort or Airbnb after your park day. Now, we know that there's some very good reasons for staying off property, cost being probably the biggest one. But if you've decided to stay on property, or if it's in your budget and you're on the fence about the decision, we definitely advocate for staying on property. Nothing beats staying in the Disney bubble. Once you're there and you don't have to leave, it's perfect. The perks are definitely nice, especially now being able to book your lightning lanes at 7 days in advance instead of 3. That's a huge advantage when staying on property. And then having the flexibility to take the monorail, the Skyliner, boat, or bus ride back to your resort is a huge time saver. Somebody's going to drive you back. You don't have to worry about it.
Exactly.
Especially those deluxe resorts around Seven Seas Lagoon at Magic Kingdom or the Epcot area resorts. You can literally walk to the parks from these resorts. Huge bonus about those. Going back for a quick rest, swim, bite to eat doesn't seem to be so daunting when you don't have far to go. And then not to mention the transit time you'll save. So again, if you're wanting to and if it fits your budget, we highly say stay on property.
Yeah, agreed 100%. The next kind of vein or the next series of tips we're going to have is arriving in Orlando and your check-in day by extension. So when it comes to tips for your arrival into Orlando and your check-in day itself, there's some ways to save a bit of time here as well. So if you're arriving from the airport and you're not driving to your resort or wherever you've chosen to stay, you've got several transportation options to get you onto Disney property. You have shuttles, the most well-known and popular being Mears Connect, driven by Sunshine. The Magical Express was a free shuttle service Disney operated pre-pandemic, and that is no more. It doesn't exist, right? So Mears and Sunshine Flyer emerged thereafter as like separate paid services, and eventually they merged to become Mears Connect, driven by Sunshine. So those two separate companies are now one, and they have two tiers of service. So the standard service, which is going to have many parties going to different resorts, and the express service, which is significantly more expensive, but it gets you direct from the terminal to your resort. There are other shuttle services and private car services that range in price, but are generally like pretty expensive. The quickest, most convenient, and cost-effective way we find, like in our opinion, is Uber or Lyft, right? So these are subject to surge pricing, so something to keep in mind. But we found it consistently, it's somewhere between like $50 to $60. Ish, right? Which is reasonable and gets you to your resort in about 30 minutes or less, literally just a driving time. If your kids are really small and you don't want to travel with your big car seat, we get it. Like Mears Connect is definitely a nice thing there because you don't have to worry about car seats. It's just like a big bus essentially, right? But if your kids are a touch older and you can do with like a booster seat that you can easily pack, it's by far the fastest way to get to and from the airport. When we travel, whether it's just Lucy and I or with the kids, everyone has a backpack and carry-on. We don't have to wait for luggage. We're literally off the plane, hailing our Uber as we get to the ground transportation landing, and away we go. We're usually at our resort unpacking and getting settled within an hour of landing. We love that. It's a great way to reclaim some time on your arrival day.
Absolutely. I would definitely vouch for that 100% every single time.
Yeah, agreed.
Also, you can check into your Disney resort weeks, even months in advance. So once you book a Disney resort stay and then link that to your My Disney Experience app, you'll be able to see your reservation details right in the app. You'll also be given the option to check in, which is actually a time saver for you from having to do this when you arrive on property. Many people are aware of this and use it already, but inevitably, we still see families waiting in sometimes really long lines at the front counter of the resort, waiting to check in on their arrival day. We know it's super exciting to finally get to be on property, smelling the lobby. That may sound weird, but if you've ever been on a Disney resort, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. And if not, you're in for a real treat, we promise. But I kid you not, when you arrive on property, you get an overwhelming sense of peace. But anyways, if you check in via the My Disney Experience app, you can bypass the front counter altogether and then just go straight up to your room. When you check in, you won't be assigned your room right away, but on your actual check-in day, you can check the app and it'll be posted there. And then they'll also send you a push notification with your room number, assuming you have notifications enabled, which you should when you're on property. So then you can use your mobile device or your linked Magic Bands if you have them to unlock your room when you arrive. This for us almost is like a ritual at this point. As soon as we land in Orlando, the Magic Bands come on and we are officially on vacation. When we arrive, we scan into our room, we do the little unpacking that we're going to do, and then we usually head out to explore, check out the gift shop, grab a bite to eat, or whatever we are doing that day, depending on what time we arrive. So again, stress-free way to check in, and then you get back some time on your arrival day to have the flexibility to use your time like you want to.
Yep, agreed 100%. Another thing we like to do, which we know is super subjective, but and Lucy kind of just touched on it, is we like to set ourselves up for success in terms of room layout. So we know some people live out of their suitcase. Some people unpack everything and like put it in the drawers. We don't think there's a right or wrong way necessarily, as long as you have a system. As you've heard us say before, we carry on. So to make that work, Lucy and I pack the suitcase in such a way to maximize space. Really, it's not rocket science. We roll all the clothes, and smaller items like socks will fill in those kind of empty gaps between the shirts and shorts and pants and whatnot. And it's basically like a Tetris game. We don't unpack. We have it laid out in a way that we can pull out outfits as we need over the course of our vacation. And when we're done with the garment, we roll it back up and it's ready to pack the night before we leave. It won't work for everyone, but it works for us and it keeps us organized and like majorly streamlines our repacking on our checkout day, or rather the night before is when we usually do it. And on our arrival day, we usually take a bit of time to unpack all our chargers, toiletries, electronics, basically everything that's going to get used daily during our stay that has a place and stays there until we pack it back up. Like it comes out and it has a place to go, right? This saves us time when we need to, find something or use something in a space that we're not necessarily used to. This isn't a must, but again, for us, it's kind of set and forget, and it's not a stress to find anything or to pack it back up when it's time to go. We've kind of perfected this system, right, over many trips. So whatever you do, just find a system that works for you, and that's going to help keep you organized in your room.
Absolutely. Okay, so now we're going to switch into being in the parks and park strategies. So we're going to act like it's kind of your first day. It's your first park day. You're excited.
Yep.
Now that you've done the preparation and you've learned the park layouts, you have your first lightning lanes booked for the day. You've joined any virtual queues like Tron, Tiana's Bayou Adventure, or Guardians, and you're all ready for your first park day. So to maximize your time, we strongly suggest arriving early. The reality is a lot of people go to the park early for rope drop, meaning arriving before the park opens to be some of the first guests to enter the park when it opens. But there is also a huge subset of guests who are arriving mid-morning. The peak busyness for the parks is typically speaking between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. So before 10 a.m., you have the early risers and the people who don't have issues getting into the parks early. The parks will get progressively busier mid-morning when later risers have just kind of trickled in. So most people who are arriving at that time will be in the parks until at least early evening. But you'll see those guests with smaller kids or who had their fill in the first part of the day. They're going to start to depart around supper time, and the crowds are going to begin to dip again just around 6 p.m. The later risers will likely stay later, and the earlier risers may leave earlier. Now, of course, this is a generalization.
Yep.
Everybody's different. So you have people who will do rope drop to park close, and then you have people who will arrive for the evening and won't be there during the height of the day. But generally speaking, the early morning and the late evening are when the crowds will be at their lowest for the day. Yep. Which is really just a long-winded way of saying that even though a lot of people rope drop, it's not a secret. It's still the least busiest time of the day. And if you are efficient in the first couple of hours of park open, you will be able to save yourself some major time waiting in queues later in the day. If you rope drop Fantasyland, let's say, for example, you can ride Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and Peter Pan, which are huge, super high wait times on average in the first 30 minutes of early entry. That is huge. And then you can still use lightning lanes for Peter Pan later and buy
an individual lightning lane or a single pass.
Yes, exactly. So that can really free up your time to do other things mid-morning into the rest of your day. And in the end, allows you to do more. When you're not waiting in forever queues, you can spend that time doing something else of your choosing. This is doubly true if you qualify for early entry. If you're staying on property, we strongly suggest getting out of bed for those 30 minutes of early entry at the parks. You won't regret it. We promise you.
We can't emphasize that enough, right? Like that's a huge perk. And like Lucy said, this is going to be, it feels busy. Like don't kid yourself. There is going to be a lot of people at rope drop and it's going to feel busy, but still like just wrap your mind around that everybody is now in that area. But once the park opens and everybody kind of funnels out, like it's less people that are going to be in the park guaranteed like all day.
That's like Magic Kingdom was a huge one when everybody's pretty much rope dropping Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. That's just a given. So it feels almost gross. Like it's overwhelming. As soon as you get on that ride though and then leave, you're free. Like you don't feel anybody near you anymore.
No, exactly.
It's good.
And like I don't like to say the worst part of the day because it's still a magical day. But like Lucy said, rope dropping Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is probably like the least pleasant ride to rope drop in all of the Walt Disney World, in our opinion. But like Lucy said, like once you're in the queue and you're side by side with your party and you get on that ride, the rest of the morning is like,
it's chill.
It's so smooth.
It's so smooth.
Yeah. All right. And on that note, we also suggest purchasing Lightning Lane Multipass and Single Pass. Now, we realize this is an added cost, and depending on, when you're there, that can be expensive to really expensive.
Mm-hmm.
The prices for these passes vary by day and projected crowd levels. So when the parks are busier, prices can be a little or a lot higher. And that's always when you're going to benefit from it most, right? When the crowds are highest. So Disney is a business, right? So
they know what they're doing.
That tracks. But you can't ignore the time it's going to save you in the park. Of course, you don't need to buy it for every day if you don't want to, or if you think it's a little or like much too expensive. You have that flexibility to buy it for whatever day you want it for, okay? But here are our suggestions. It's definitely worth it in Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios. Magic Kingdom has a lot of attractions on MultiPass, and if you're using it to its maximum capacity, you can really get a lot done in terms of lightning lanes throughout the day, which in the end saves you time and, a lot of time waiting in queues. In Hollywood Studios, you have way less attractions on MultiPass, but that's only because there are much less attractions in the park, like in general.
Mm-hmm.
It's not any less worth it here, though, because they have a lot of heavy hitter attractions, like think, Slinky Dog Dash, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, Smuggler's Run, Rock and Roller Coaster, Tower of Terror, Toy Story Midway Mania. They can all get really long wait times of 60 minutes or more. So you can save yourself some major time or ride them twice, once with the standby queue and once again with your lightning lane. It's hit or miss if it's worth it in Epcot, in our opinion. On less busy days, if you're arriving for early entry, you can get those heavy hitters. So Remy's, Frozen, and Test Track when it's open early in the day. And the rest of the attractions usually don't have very high waits at all, right? Especially during like less busy times, like,
September.
Yeah, Spaceship Earth, Living with the Land,
Mm-hmm.
Nemo, Fiesta, like all of these rides are going to have really, really low waits, if not walk on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And lastly, Animal Kingdom. We think that this is the park where it's actually least necessary. So especially when you arrive early. So you can get Flight of Passage and Navi River Journey done during early entry and the rest of the attractions during the rest of the day. You're still going to have plenty of park time to enjoy some shows like Festival of the Lion King and Finding Nemo, The Big Blue and Beyond. Another thing that can save you time is Lightning Lane Single Pass, right? So the old individual lightning lanes. These are Tron, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train at Magic Kingdom, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind at Epcot, Rise of the Resistance at Hollywood Studios, and Flight of Passage at Animal Kingdom. If you rope drop these attractions, that can save you money, and you can use your multi-pass for the other big rides in the parks, or you can purchase single passes if you choose to for those attractions, as they tend to have very high wait times throughout the day. Like I'm thinking Rise of the Resistance is always a long wait. So is Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. And it's can save you time purchasing that single pass if it's in the budget and if it's something that you want to do. Note that this doesn't apply to Guardians of the Galaxy and Tron, though, as these operate virtual queues. So if you can get in the virtual queues at 7 a.m. for those, you can ride them for free. Note that virtual queues aren't immediate, okay? So you're going to face a longer wait than the lightning lane. So if saving time is more important for you than the cost of single pass, it can certainly still be worth it to purchase. Or if you're wanting to ride it twice, which is something we always do, you book the virtual queue at 7 a.m. and you purchase a single pass. Especially for Guardians, we do this every single time. So we can ride it as many times as possible.
Absolutely. Another thing that can help you save time in queues is the single rider lines. Certain attractions across the 4 parks offer single rider lines, meaning if you don't mind being split up from your party in exchange for a potentially much, much shorter wait, then you can definitely save some major time waiting in the standby queue. Note that you will be split from your party for certain. For certain.
Yeah, 100%.
We've witnessed people getting to the front of the single rider queue and then asking cast members if they can sit together with their party. And the answer has always been a hard no. That is just the stipulation for getting 100%. In that line.
It's the purpose, right?
That would defeat the purpose of the single rider line and then undermine every single person who is waiting in the standby queue. So just make sure you and your party members are very cool with riding alone. And if you are, again, this is a great way to save time. One thing to note that depending on the attraction, you may miss some of the features of the attraction. So for example, Test Track, before it closed for refurbishment, had a single rider queue that you skipped the part where you actually design your virtual vehicle. Disney is currently testing a single rider queue at Rise of the Resistance, and this splits you out of that scene where you encounter the stormtroopers. So you miss actually the first 2 parts of that attraction. So you must keep that in mind as well. If you've been to Disney lots and you're cool with that, you can actually almost probably quote every single thing that's said to you in those, then that's totally fine. But if this is your first trip and you've never seen these attractions, that's kind of a little less appealing in our opinion.
Yeah, 100%.
Especially Rise.
Especially Rise. Rise of the Resistance is in my opinion, like a 3-stage attraction.
It's like everything.
And it builds,
Yep.
right? So you really need all the pieces
You
to
do.
really get the full picture. So if it's your first trip or you haven't been in 5 years, don't skip it. Don't go single rider. Like it's 100% worth doing the whole thing.
Agreed.
All right, next up is shortcuts or more efficient ways to get around the parks, or not necessarily shortcuts, but just, maybe roads less traveled, let's say. You're going to do a lot of walking during your park days. There's no doubt about that. And that's not a bad thing. It's just what it is, right? But having said that, if you're trying to find the most efficient way to get to wherever it is you're trying to get to, it can be helpful to know some shortcuts and lesser known paths around the parks. The vast majority of people are just going to follow the masses, right? And take the most.
Cattle.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to take the most obvious path. But there are several ways to get around the parks that can save you steps. And that translates to time saved, right? So if you're in a rush to get to your next lightning lane, make your dining reservation, or just want the road less traveled, take notes. All right, so we're going to go by park here, and we're going to start at Magic Kingdom. So at Magic Kingdom, there's a path that leads from the entrance to Tron and back into Storybook Circus if you're trying to get to Fantasyland from Tron. It's definitely faster than coming all the way back out and, walking back up in between Tomorrowland Speedway and Star Traders / Cosmic Rays. This is a newer path that opened in 2023 when Tron opened, and it's definitely underutilized. And it's like a ghost town, essentially.
Absolutely.
And that can save you time. Over to the left of the castle when you're facing it, right near Sleepy Hollow and Ye Olde Christmas Shop, there's a path that leads from that area of Liberty Square and comes out right next to the Spring Roll snack cart at the entrance to Adventureland, rather than coming out, all the way to the hub and walking back in. And if you're at the back of the castle facing it, there's a path to the right that leads you to the entrance of Liberty Square and Sleepy Hollow, and you can continue down to the other path we just mentioned as a straight shot from Fantasyland to Adventureland. And still from the back of the castle, there's also a path to the left that comes out next to Fairytale Garden, which is where Mirabelle's meet and greet now is, and directly beside Cosmic Rays. You can walk through Cosmic Rays to save even more time if you're heading for Tron or Space Mountain rather than walking all the way around, right?
Absolutely. It gives you a little bit of a cool down too. And there's bathrooms in there.
Yeah, exactly. From Main Street USA, there's a shortcut to Tomorrowland through Tomorrowland Terrace. Okay, so instead of going through the hub, when you're facing the castle, turn right in front of the Plaza Ice Cream Parlor and the Plaza restaurant itself, like the proper restaurant, and follow that path along to Tomorrowland Terrace. You're going to come out right beside Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor inside Tomorrowland. Again, avoiding the hub, saving some steps, and getting there a little faster. Over in Frontierland, there's a path along the riverside that starts right near the entrance to Haunted Mansion, follows the river, and comes out right in front of Tiana's Bayou Adventure and Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. It saves only a little time in terms of steps and distance traveled, but it's always way less busy than the main path, so you can definitely make time with it.
Our kids actually kind of love it because they look for fish as we're walking too.
Exactly.
So it's actually a really good spot.
And that way it might not save you time if your kids are stopping all the time. But like when it's you and me, we
boogie.
Exactly. We flow through that path and we definitely save time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And still in Frontierland, there's two paths that lead from Frontierland to Adventureland and vice versa. So the first is right next to Country Bear Jamboree and comes out right next to Aloha Isle in front of Magic Carpets of Aladdin and Jungle Cruise just beyond. If you're coming from Tiana's or Big Thunder, trying to get to Adventureland, it's way faster than following that main path that goes like back and around in front of Pirates of the Caribbean. That's like way longer.
I agree.
And a little further up, just before Diamond Horseshoe, there's another path that leads through and right out in front of the Swiss Family Treehouse. Quick way to get through to Adventureland from Liberty Square or vice versa. All of these have saved us time, during one of our trips at some point, guaranteed. And they're our go-to paths when we're trying to get from land to land.
Oh, absolutely. We hardly ever take the masses path, ever.
Yeah, exactly. And
unless we're forced to.
Yeah, exactly. And
we know our way.
exactly.
we know our little secrets. And there are other people's secrets too, but you can definitely tell they're the path less traveled.
Yes,
for sure.
Agreed, 100%. Yeah.
Next up is Epcot. So Epcot is massive and you're going to be doing a ton of walking regardless. From the front of the park into the World Showcase, there's a path to the right and left that's going to save you time depending which side of the World Showcase you are heading to. From the front of the park facing the World Showcase, there's a path to the left that follows the walkway near the Odyssey Pavilion and then comes out right near the entrance to the Mexico Pavilion. And then coming from the other way, it's actually a great way to get to World Discovery where Test Track, Guardians, Mission Space, and Company are located. On the right, there's a path to the right of the main walkway that comes out near the entrance to the Canada Pavilion. Caveat here is that there's actually a couple of food booths here during the festival, so a few more people will probably take this path during that time, but it's still way quicker than the main path. And then also there's actually washrooms and a water bottle refill station there as well, so that's actually very good to know. A lot of people don't realize there's actually two entrances to Epcot. There's the main entrance at the front of the park where you'll come in from if you were driving, if you took a bus, or you arrived via the monorail. And then if you take the friendship boats from the Epcot resorts, walk from the other Epcot resorts, or take the Skyliner, you're actually going to come in from the International Gateway entrance, which spits you out right between the France and UK pavilions. This is good to know, and if you have a reservation for any of the Epcot area resort restaurants, or just to explore the boardwalk, it's actually a short walk from this entrance. It's absolutely a beautiful area of the property that not everybody knows about or visits regularly. We love walking there.
Yeah, the boardwalk is beautiful. Like
So
if you've
nice.
never been, again, like Lucy said, it's like a 2-minute walk from the International Gateway entrance. So if you're just wandering around the World Showcase and you're not sure what to do next, dip out.
Absolutely.
Like literally go out and go see, the lobbies of the hotels there.
You're
There's
allowed
a
to
ton
walk
of
through
dining
them. Yep.
options. There's like snack carts, there's quick service locations. Go grab an ice cream at Beaches
Yep.
and Cream
They
at
have
Beach
their
Club.
own, gift shops too.
Yep.
There's
Yeah,
lots
100%.
going on there.
It's worth to go check out for sure.
Absolutely. I completely agree. There's also a pathway right next to the Moana Journey of Water and her meet and greet nearby that comes out right near Dreamer's Point, where the new Walt statue is located, right behind Spaceship Earth. This can actually save you time if you're trying to get to the very front of the park. And then lastly, it's not really a time saver, but it does cut down on walking, and that's the friendship boats across the World Showcase Lagoon. There are boats that go from the entrance to Canada to the Moroccan Pavilion on the other side. So if your tired feet are barking at the end of the day, your kids are tired, and if you're just trying to get to the back of the park, that's definitely a good option for you.
Yep, agreed, 100%. Not many people know about that.
No, not many people at all.
So next up is Animal Kingdom. So Animal Kingdom is the park that feels the most secluded, and that's because of all the greenery that is literally everywhere, right? It's hard to see much of anything from the land you're in because of that. And then from the entrance of the park, as you're walking to Discovery Island, which is the hub for Animal Kingdom, you can't even actually see the Tree of Life because of how dense it is, right? So having said that, there's a few ways to save you time when getting around. So first up, there's a quiet path virtually unknown by most guests that leads from Africa to Asia. So you enter near the entrance to Harambe Market and come out in Asia near Caravan Road and Mr. Kamal's that's located in Asia. It's always quiet here. I've never, not once, seen it busy. Okay, so I promise you it's a good way to save a bit of time. There's also a path that leads from Pandora and comes out right near the Festival of the Lion King Theater in Africa. Okay, it's definitely the quickest way from Pandora to Africa, and it's not a secret. Okay, lots know about it, but it's definitely less busy and less traveled than the main walkway into Pandora. Over in Dinoland USA, there's a pathway that leads from the gift shop at the dinosaur attraction to Chester and Hester's Dinosaur Treasures, and you come out right near Triceratops Bin. Not many people know about this path at all. There's also a path that runs from Terra Treats near the entrance to Africa from Discovery Island, which is the hub again from Animal Kingdom, and you can follow this path that takes you in behind the Tree of Life and comes out near 8 Spoon Cafe on the other side, which is near the entrance to Asia. Not many people take this path, and it's a nice way to get through from one side of the Tree of Life to the other. Plus, it's a great spot to take photos as well. So we recommend checking that out for that reason alone. It goes along the water, and you can get some really great shots there.
Absolutely. It's a really nice spot. Hollywood Studios is definitely more compact, so there's not as many shortcuts, but there are definitely a few efficient ways to get around, so let's dive in. First off, when you are coming from early entry, there's usually 3 areas that people are heading for. If you're going to Galaxy's Edge, you're going to want to turn left towards it. If you cut across in front of Grauman's Theater and walk along Commissary Lane by ABC Commissary, you'll come out beside Baseline Tap House, and it's straight shot to Galaxy's Edge from there. A lot of people are going to cut in front of Frozen next to the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular and Backlot Express and go on from there. I think that in terms of distance travel, these are actually pretty close, but less people go to the ABC Commissary, so you can definitely make up some time on the walk and not be so crowded.
Yeah, agreed 100%. Yeah. And when you look at it on a map, you're like, no, it must be faster to go by Echo Lake and Lucy said, by Indiana Jones and kind of back around that way. And again, I don't think that distance travel, it's probably pretty close, but again, less people go by, in front of the Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway along ABC Commissary. You're going to see that way less people head there. So if you're a fast walker, you can make up time.
Absolutely.
And probably get there before a bunch of people that are taking the other route.
Yeah. It's a straight shot to Slinky Dog and to Tower of Terror or Rock and Roller Coaster from the entrance, so there's absolutely no worries there. But if you are in Galaxy's Edge and are wanting to get back to Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway or the entrance or Sunset Boulevard for that matter, where you are in the land will impact for sure which way you should go. If you are near Rise of the Resistance or the main area of Ronto Roasters and the majority of the merchandise locations, you're actually better off going back near the entrance closest to Muppets Courtyard and then back back through Commissary Lane. If you are on the far side, closest to the Droid Depot and the entrance to Toy Story Land, you are better off cutting through there and then coming out at Animation Courtyard and then back around. Another one of our favorites is if you are actually coming from the Minnie and Mickey's area and then going to Sunset Boulevard, keep left going along the Hollywood Brown Derby restaurant and lounge and take the corner tight rather than coming out on the main walkway. Again, not a huge time saver, but enough that we kind of feel it's worth it, both saving time and steps.
Yeah, agreed 100%. We do that every time.
Every single time.
And because, especially during busier times, that main walkway is like congested. Right?
Very congested.
So just dipping into that little side area can save you some time.
Absolutely.
For sure. All right, next up, we've got a few quick food, dining, drink tips to help save you time. So pack snacks, okay? Things like granola bars or protein bars, crackers, nuts, and trail mix, similar snacks, like dry snacks that don't have to be refrigerated. Like, these don't have to be kept cold and they're quick and easy to eat on the go. So it can save you from having to stop. You could easily be in queue waiting for an attraction and having a quick bite to tide you over until the next quick service or table service meal. Plus, it can save, a meltdown from a cranky kid.
Yes.
And we've done this, right? We've done
Absolutely.
this plenty of time, like especially in the morning, we'll pack peanut butter sandwiches. And then when we're waiting at rope drop, the kids are going to have breakfast, right? So definitely an option there.
Yes.
Next up, refillable water bottles. So we've talked about this before, but there are refill stations around the park and you can keep some water on you so you're not going to have to stop every time you get thirsty, right? And finding water has never been easier. You can find water bottle refill stations right on the My Disney Experience app. You just search that in the search bar. You can map your nearest one. And if one isn't nearby, you don't need to cross the park for free water, right? Dip into any quick service location and ask for a cup of cold water and they'll give you one or however many you need, free of charge. So definitely take advantage of that. We've done that on more times than we can count. There's also in certain areas, like in front of Casey's Corner at Magic Kingdom, in front of Backlot Express at Hollywood Studios, they have those big brown coolers where you can fill cold water as well.
Yep. So good. And always cold. It's never warm. It's always cold.
Situli Canteen at Animal Kingdom. Sorry,
That's
just
right.
a bunch are coming to me. They're all over the place, right? So just something to keep in mind there. And on that note, for quick service, make sure to use the mobile ordering feature at the snack and quick service locations that have it, okay? It's way faster than waiting in the traditional line. You place your order at the location you want to eat. It's going to give you options and available times to pick from. You order and you pay right from the app. When your window opens and you're ready to eat, click I'm here, prepare my order, and it's going to notify you when your order is ready and you go to the window that's assigned and you pick it up. It's that easy. No waiting in line, no fuss. This has saved us like hours upon hours over many trips.
But honestly, I think we've said it before on the podcast, but I giggle every single time I see people waiting in line that offers mobile quick service order and they're on their phones just waiting. I'm like, excuse me.
Yeah, they're
I want
scrolling
to tap their
Instagram or
shoulders
doing
and be
whatever
like,
they're doing, right?
You
It's
should
like,
have ordered.
jump on the My Disney Experience app and order. You're going to save time.
None of our business, but
exactly.
we
don't want to, of course, we're not going to start scolding people in line, do what you want, but it's just, something to keep in mind, right?
Absolutely.
And lastly, if it's an option, eat at off-peak times. Okay, so quick service locations are going to be busiest between like 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. and 7 p.m., right? Like peak, lunch, and dinner time. So if you can have a late breakfast, early or late lunch, early or very late supper, you're going to face like lower wait times, right? Across the board. This is true for walk-up wait lists at table service restaurants as well.
Absolutely. So next up is ride shares, either Uber, Lyft, or minivans, which is booked via the Lyft app, but the drivers are cast members. If you're trying to get to a dining reservation at Disney Springs from Hollywood Studios, first, there are no buses from the parks to Disney Springs, so you'd have to actually go to a resort first. So instead of heading to a resort or having to wait for a bus to get to the resort or other transportation method to Disney Springs, you can actually hop on a rideshare and cut your travel time way down. There is an added cost, of course, but this could definitely be worth it to you. You can take the ride shares around property to get places faster. The cost does add up, so we don't actually advocate to do this all the time, but we've definitely used it to get out of a tight spot when pressed for time. So again, good way to reclaim some time when you need it.
Yeah, 100%. And like, we'll give you an example. We were staying at the Polynesian.
Yes.
We had a dining reservation at the Wilderness Lodge at Storybook Dining.
Correct.
This was a couple trips ago with the kids. And it was raining cats and dogs.
Pouring.
We didn't want to go outside and like wait for the monorail. And then, we were going to take the monorail to the Contemporary and take the boat from Contemporary to Wilderness Lodge from there.
But it was raining. It would have been so miserable.
Yeah, so we hailed a minivan. They had car seats for the kids, and we were there.
Little movie was playing.
Exactly, and it's like super close, right? So we were there in like 4 minutes.
It was perfect.
So it's a convenience thing. Not for all the time, but again, depending on what's going on, it can be a nice thing.
Absolutely.
And if you've been listening to the show for a while, you know we advocate for breaks, okay? So having said that, there are huge time sucks. So when you factor in the travel time back to your resort, relaxing, getting bathing suits on, for example, do whatever it is you're doing, and the time to get back, get ready and then head back to the park after, it can 100% be worth it. Don't get us wrong, but it also takes a significant amount of time out of your day. Another good way to break that takes up less time is a table service reservation for lunch. Okay, so if you can sit down for an hour or so in some AC and really recharge, it can make a huge difference in the second half of your day.
Mm-hmm.
Again, a midday break is a lifesaver. So whatever that looks like for you, more power to you. Just know that there are some ways to cut down on the amount of time it takes.
Absolutely. I'll tell you, like our favorite one when it's just the two of us at Hollywood Studios, and another Hollywood Studios thing is Baseline Tap House.
Yeah.
It is the perfect way to sit, people watch, enjoy some good food, a good beer. And then just get going again.
Agreed. And with the kids, again, at Hollywood Studios, that's usually the day that we do Topolino's Terrace.
Yes.
So we dip out,
get on the Skyliner.
Late morning, like right before lunch, we get on the Skyliner, exactly, and we go have a nice breakfast.
And that's a ride in itself for your kids.
Agreed. Another thing we've done too is like lunch reservations at Steakhouse 71 over at the Contemporary. And then we just dip out of Magic Kingdom, get on the monorail or even walk and go have a nice lunch there, take a break.
It's kind of fun too to go and see some resorts that you may not see.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
So next is shopping. And this is a fun way to check out the stores and merchandise locations, but a very good way to get your shopping done is actually at park close. The stores usually stay open after the park officially closes. So on your way out, you can definitely do your shopping and then you're not lugging around everything you bought. So this way you're not cutting into your park day and you have the added benefit of not having to carry around your purchases all day. You can buy them last thing and then they just go right back with you to the resort. So win-win for everyone.
Yeah, agreed 100%. And lastly, extended evening hours and after hours events. So both of these are going to cost you a pretty penny. So, think about that. But if you qualify for extended evening hours, you need to be staying at a deluxe resort, which is usually, in like the $500 a night and even more sometimes. And also the Swan and Dolphin, Swan Reserve, and Shades of Green resorts also qualify for this benefit. But again, like aside from Swan and Dolphin, Swan Reserve, and Shades of Green, which actually have some decent rates sometimes, the vast majority of the times, the deluxe resorts are like atrociously expensive.
Atrociously, yes.
Like aggressively priced. Anyways, so getting to stay in the park 2 hours after it closes to all guests can be a huge time saver because you can hit up, a ton of attractions in a short amount of time. After hours events are good for this too because again, it's an added cost because it's a separate ticket. But it's a good way to get a bunch of attractions done in a short amount of time, which can take the pressure off other park days if you can really be efficient during these events.
Absolutely. So with all that said, like we mentioned at the start, time is money in Walt Disney World. And we don't mean that in a cheesy way, but at the end of the day, you're on vacation, so you want to be able to relax and enjoy your time off, of course. But being prepared and knowing some ways to save time gives you your time back. So in the end, in our opinion, it is definitely in your best interest to maximize your time so that you can have the flexibility to do more what you want to do and then focus less on the logistics of actually pulling off a trip. We've put these tips into practice over numerous trips, many times over, and they've saved us a little to a lot of time. So as always, take these tips that would work for you and your family, leave the rest. You know what's best for you.
Yeah, agreed 100%. With all that said, thank you for joining us today to talk time-saving tips for your Walt Disney World trip. We hope you found some value in it and that you're going to be able to apply some of it to your next vacation. Feel free to contact us on social media to let us know. We'd love to hear from you guys. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you could leave us a rating and review, as always, it would be greatly appreciated. You can do that right on Apple Podcasts. And for Spotify, you can leave a rating.
You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok at Let's Go.to-Disney, as well as on our Facebook page, Let's Go to Disney, where we share more tips and have fun as well. Our link tree to all our socials are in the show notes.
Have a great day and we'll see you real soon.